Want to see a cool party trick? Quick note, it's only cool if your friends are geography nerds, but geography nerds make for great friends. So pull up Google Maps for this one, head to Africa, get in on Ethiopia. You'll notice that the east side of the country is drier than the west. You'll see this better over there. Just start zooming in. Yeah, find a spot, probably a rural spot away from the cities, and zoom, 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 get up close and tight. All right, find a spot where you can see like a green dot amidst some brown. Get closer and closer. Yeah. That is an Ethiopian church forest. Now these are some incredible sights. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church has this centuries-old tradition of taking care of forests around their church site. The priests need to explain it to do justice, the meaning to all this. And we're going to hear from them in just a little bit. That's right, we are heading into one of these church forests, a site that I've always wanted to see up close, and I really cannot wait for this visit. Now, before we get too far into this, I want to explore Christianity in Ethiopia, because it's a good deal different than what you might be exposed through Western Christianity. So Christianity in Ethiopia goes way back. It predates Christianity in the Americas and in Europe. Ethiopia was the second place to have Christianity as a state religion, second only to Armenia. And so some of the churches here are literally some of the oldest Christian churches in the world. I think it's really important, especially for me as a Christian living in the U.S., to recognize and to be in touch with the diversity of my faith.
So I'm thinking about the context at which, Christianity spread and the original audience of the Gospels and all that. And I think to truly understand it, you got to see it through the lens of a population that's been marginalized and oppressed. And when we try and do it without that framework, we're just missing something huge. So I think we can learn a lot from Christianity in different contexts that have more of that going on.
The way any person practices any faith is influenced by their culture. It's kind of an inevitable thing. But one of the better things you can do to have a clearer sense for where this ends and begins is to see it from a different cultural perspective.
Interlinking the environment, interlinking the nature to nurture, interlinking the creator to the creation, and teaching the community that protecting the environment is our assignment, and teaching the community that we will be asked after this whether our assignment, whether we have done the assignment or not.
Baranu works as a liaison between the church and communities. He helped me see how faith is an important motivator in people's environmental behaviors.
So one thing I've learned in Ethiopia is that fasting is a very big part of the practice.
Actually, fasting is protecting your body from any need. It may be from food, it may be from physical need.
In total, how many days of fasting are there in a year?
More than 120.
More than 120 days of fasting every year.
Yeah. In short, there are 7 fastings in our calendar, and most of this fasting will be fast up to 9 o'clock. During this fast, we are restricted from any milk, from any meat.
So is it until 9 o'clock they don't eat?
Yeah.
And then after 9 o'clock they might eat hero or things, but non-animal products.
Yeah.
I see. Wow.
Yeah.
Our arrival and entry to the church forest was exciting, to say the least.
Ethiopia has some of the oldest Christian churches in the world. One thing that's incredible here is the way that people's faith is so heavily integrated with their relationship with nature and their care for the environment. I think for a lot of us who live in urban areas or in different settings, we can learn a lot from this dynamic. We're going to spend some time talking to a few of the priests and parishioners around this church right now.
One of the earliest signs for how enthusiastically we would be welcomed by the priests was this massive sign they had put up to welcome me and my team, with the date printed on it. They created this whole thing just for a one-time visit.
This is amazing because I learned about Ethiopian church forests years ago, and now I'm actually at one. It's kind of wild to believe, but really, really cool.
We started with a round of introductions. Then it was time to talk to some of the priests and elders.
All right, I'm gonna talk to some of the priests now to hear about how they protect nature as a part of their worship.
ፍጥረታትን መጠበቅ ደንን መጠበቅ ሙሉ በሙሉ ለሰው ልጅ ቀርቶ ለሁሉም ህይወት ማለት ነው የማየው።
ያው እኔ ስሜ እንግዲህ ያጸደ ማርያም ደብረ ብርሃን ኃላፊ መላከ ብርሃን እባላለሁ።
ስሜ መላከ ገነት በሬ ዘለም እባላለሁ። ሙሉ በሙሉ ጌጧ ስለሆነ ለቤተ ክርስቲያን ጌጧም ስለሆነ ለዚህ ምድር ጌጧ ስለሆነ ለእግዚአብሔርም መገናኘት ቅርብ ስለሆነ እንግዲህ ወደ ታሪኩ እንዳንገባ
እያልነ እጽዋት እንዳንድ ልጅ ይቆጠራል እያልነ ነው ይሄንን አሳምነን ያደረግነው ማለት ነው።
That makes sense. What spiritual lessons can we learn from plants and trees and wildlife?
እንግዲህ ከእግዚአብሔር የተሰጠነ ለመጀመሪያው ሰው ለአዳም በገነት ያሉትን ሁሉ ጠብቅ ተብሏል። እንግዲህ ይሄንን ስንል ገነት የመጀመሪያዋ የሰው ልጅ የተፈጠረባት ምድር ናት። ክምችት የደን ክምችት በአይነት አለባት። ከዚያ በኋላ ግን የእግዚአብሔር ወደዚህ ምድር ደግሞ ሰውን ሲልከው እቺ ምድር ሙሉ በሙሉ የደን ክምችት ነበረባት።
For me, I had a realization that so many people's lives and livelihoods around the world hinge on a healthy climate. And so if I believe in loving my neighbor as myself, then it made sense to live in a way that does the least damage to our shared environment that they rely so heavily on. For me, that was my entry point to better caring for nature. But in Ethiopia, people are also moved because this is part of how they experience God.
During this time where many people are anxious about climate change, what role do Christians have to play?
ዋናው ድርቆች ሌሎች ነገሮች ሁሉ የሚከሰቱ እኛና እግዚአብሔር በመካከል ያለው ፍቅር ላይ ነው የተመስርቶ የሚኖረው። በእግዚአብሔርና በሰው መካከል ያለው ፍቅር ሲቋረጥ በእኛ እምነት ማለት ነው ድርቅም ሌሎች ነገሮች ሁሉ ይከሰታሉ። በዚህ ጊዜኛ ደግሞ እግዚአብሔርን በጸሎት መጠየቅ ነው። በጸሎት የምንጠይቀው አባቶች በጣም ታላላቅ አባቶች በዚህ በደን ውስጥ ገብተው በዚህ ጎጆ ሰርተው ምን ብለው ሱባኤ ይገባሉ። እግዚአብሔርን በጸሎት ጠይቃሉ።
ተተከለች ማለት ነው። ያው መሬት የላትም ነበር ዙሮ ያው ጥበት አላት። በዚህ ድርጅት ላይ በመነሳት ያው ከቀበሌውም በአገር አንድነት በፍቅር ይሄንን 9 ቃዳ መሬት
በዚህ በፌሮስታ ኢትዮጵያ የሚሰሩ ወንድሞቻችን ማመስገን እፈልጋለሁ። በእውነት በዚህ መልሶ ጋር ማገገም ኢኮኖሚ አቅም ግንባታ ቤተክርስቲያን በማጠር ላይ የሚገናኙት ከብዙ ማህበረሰብ ጋር ነው።
These churches are sanctuaries, not just in a religious sense, but also sanctuaries for wildlife and biodiversity. Here, animal species, birds, insects, and other creatures can thrive. And while many areas across Ethiopia have been degraded to the point where this wildlife can no longer be found, they can be found in these sites.
ምክንያቱም በእኛ ዘመን ደኖች የዱር ለበስ ይባል ነበር። ተራራዎች ሁሉ በጣም እንትን ነበሩ፣ ደን ነበሩ። ስለዚህ አሁን እየተመናመኑ ሲመጡ እነዚህ በቤተ ክርስቲያን ስም የቀሩት ይሄም የሚታወቀው እንደምታዩት ይሄን የመሰለ ግንብ አለ። ሌሎችም እንዲህ እስከ ሺህ ዘመን የሆናቸው እጽዋት ደኖች፣ ጽድ፣ ወይሮች
These churches are becoming safe havens for many of Ethiopia's native trees that are quickly becoming endangered outside of the church grounds.
ታላላቅ እንትኖች ይወጡልናል። ምክንያቱም የደን ጥቅሞች አፈር ከመቦርቦር ያድናሉ፣ የተራቆቱ መሬቶችን ይመልሳሉ፣ ዝናብ በአግባቡ እንዲዘንብ ያደርጋሉ እና ጥቅማቸው ብዙ ስለሆነ በዚያም ደግሞ አሁን
Whenever you protect trees, you're protecting a habitat, which means you're safeguarding many forms of life. Scientists say you can't overstate the importance that these church forests have had to biodiversity.
እሱም አሁን ለምሳሌ አሁን እነዚህ ተቆራርጠው ያኛውም ወኖ ተከበረ ደኑ ማለት ነው። ይሄም አሁን አገግሞ ደኑ እየለበሰ ከመጣ ብዙ አራዊቶች ገብታሉ። ቆቅ፣ ጅግራ፣ የተለያዩ አሽኮኮ፣ ጥንቸል፣ ድኩላ ወትሮ በግ የሚበላ ቀበሮ ሳይቀር ድኝ የሚግጥ ጃርት ሳይቀር
I think one of the coolest things my team at Plant with Purpose is doing is creating corridors between these church forests, allowing wildlife to interact between these pockets. Just think, this expands the area of thriving land across Ethiopia, and it'll increase the genetic diversity among these native species, which builds their resilience. It's ambitious, but important work for the conservation of those species.
ሁሉም ያባረራቸዋል እየተሳደዱ እነሱም ያልተጠጉም ነበር። አሁን ግን እየቀረቡ ነው እና ዛሬ እንደ ድሮ አሁን ዛሬ ድንሽ ይጠበቃል።
The pockets of paradise around these Ethiopian churches contrast so sharply with the land around them, which is often brown, dry, and degraded. To me, these forests show us what it looks like when the land is restored, what it's capable of. You can literally feel that difference. To test that out, we've got a thermometer, and we're going to check the temperature outside of a forest versus once we're in the cover of trees. Getting some grass. 13.7. That's Celsius. We'll get a Fahrenheit thing up on screen for our American friends. Let's go into the woods. 8.2. You may have noticed the circular design of most of these churches, and that is completely intentional. They're modeled after the Old Testament tabernacles, with the most central point being the most holy. Overall, I've noticed a much greater sense of reverence for the sacred from my Ethiopian brothers and sisters, something I don't see very much of in the US. It's not uncommon to see a lot of kissing of crosses or bowing fully forward. You might find varying degrees of that in certain communities in the US, but for the most part, we're a little more uneasy with the materials of our worship. I think largely this uneasiness comes from a good place of not wanting to put materials ahead of their maker, but I appreciate what I observe. I think of how I treasure and hang on to the pieces of art my kids make me and bring me home from school, how those channel my love for the hands that made them. And it reminds me that with the right perspective, creation should just stir up more and more awe and wonder for the Creator. I'm still thinking about my conversations with the priests. Like, I love how seriously these guys take it. You know, heaven is like the Garden of Eden, and so this place should be like that too. Yeah, and it's like the presence of a world beyond this one does not negate our responsibility to take care of our world. The same God who made these lands, who made these forests, this wildlife, also made our souls. And so when we take care of the earth, we're really taking care of our own souls. And I love the lessons in biology that show how we're more connected than separate in a lot of ways. I love the lessons in biology of how we're all connected. And I see how when we take care of the earth, we help each other. We help each other live more healthy lives, create more opportunities, and experience more wonder. I will always hang on to the mental image of these priests standing under their colorful umbrellas. It's a reminder of how we're all together under a colorful tapestry of diverse histories and traditions and perspectives that are all stitched together in a unified faith we share.